Interested in learning about wine, but not sure where to start? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine podcast. I'm your host, Haley Bowman, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm a wine enthusiast turned wine educator and founder of the Seattle-based wine tasting business, Cork and Fizz. It is my goal to build your confidence in wine by making it approachable and lots of fun. You can expect to learn everything from how to describe your favorite wine to what to pair with dinner tonight, and so much more. Whether you're a casual wine sipper or a total cork dork like myself, this podcast is for you. So grab yourself a glass and let's dive in. Welcome back to the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine podcast. Today, we are sticking with the holiday theme. If you're anything like me, that is pretty much what's on the top of your mind right now. So I wanted to share some wines that I think would be perfect for your holiday dinner table, because I know that's a time when a lot of us want to serve wine, but we're not quite sure which bottles to have on the table. And maybe you want to bring a bottle of wine over to a dinner party you're going to, and you just want to bring a good bottle that people enjoy. And that's all you're worried about. So that is what this episode is about. I also have a full downloadable holiday wine guide. It includes 16 specific bottles of wine that I would recommend for the holidays. This podcast is going to essentially go over why I think those wines are so great and tell you a little bit more about them and throw in a few other styles of wine that I think would be good. Let's dive into it. So when it comes to wines for the holidays, I think the go-to for a lot of people is to share this fancy special bottle of wine that they've been saving. And honestly, I say freaking go for it if you are going to do that. Like, when is a better time than when you have all the people you love around together? And for me, a lot of times, a special bottle of wine is made even more special when you're around other people. Now, that said, that only applies to some situations, right? Because for one, sometimes that special bottle of wine might not go with the food that you are serving with your holiday dinner, right? So if wine and food pairings matter to you and you want something that matches well, maybe not the best idea. The other thing to keep in mind is, who are you sharing the wine with, right? Like, is it your dad who got you into wine and just really loves, trying new things and is super enthused and will love the wine as much as you? Or is it, your great Uncle Bob who just wants to have something in his glass, right? And you don't want to have only a glass of your, $60 bottle of wine and have somebody else who would have enjoyed a $15 bottle just as much drink the rest of it, right? So I hope that doesn't come across as mean. I think it just is keep in mind who is drinking the wine and what they would appreciate. And I mean, again, share your wine with whoever you want to share it with. But I'm going to give you some wine recommendations that match more of the wine and food pairing and are also around between $15 and $40 a bottle. So it keeps it a little lower cost, just in case you have folks who just prefer to drink, just want something that tastes good, and they don't care as much about the actual wine itself. Just a quick reminder, if you are not on my mailing list yet, what are you waiting for? I would love for you to join. When you do, you'll get a free shopping guide that has 15 of my favorite wines under $15. Head to corkandfizz.com, scroll down to the bottom, and there'll be a little section where you can join the mailing list. I send out a weekly newsletter filled with wine tips, recommendations, special offers, and so much more. Now, let's get back to the show. So we're going to go over 4 styles of wine. So we're going to start with sparkling, then we'll go into white wines, red wines, and of course, some dessert wines for the holidays, which when is a better time to pull out a dessert wine than with holidays? So starting off, I feel like having some sparkling is always good, right? We're thinking New Year's. Also just good to have something to celebrate over the holidays, something to pour in people's glasses when they arrive. How cool would that be? I feel like family Christmas might be even better. When you arrived, it's here is your glass of sparkling wine. So when it comes to sparkling, I think a lot of people automatically think of champagne. Champagne is wonderful, but champagne is freaking expensive. So I'm going to recommend a style of wine that is made exactly like champagne. also in France, just not in the region of Champagne. So it's made in the exact same style. It's going to have very similar flavors, but it's typically only around $20 to $30 a bottle. And you can actually find bottles, I think around like $12 at Trader Joe's. This style of wine is called Cremant, Cremant. And typically on the bottle, it will say Cremant, and then it'll say Cremant de or Cremant du, the region in France that it is from. So one of my favorites to recommend if you're looking for something that is a pure champagne alternative is Cremant de Bourgogne. And this wine comes from the Burgundy region in France, which is not far south from Champagne, and it is made with the same grapes that they use in Champagne. So literally the only difference between a Cremant de Bourgogne and a Champagne is where the wine is made and the price difference. So this is one of those really great little wine hacks. It shows you know a little bit about wine. Everyone's going to love it. But honestly, you can find Cremant de wherever. I love a Cremant de Jura. This is from a little region just east of Burgundy. Uses similar grape varieties as Burgundy, but also some fun, unique ones. If you like a little bit of a lighter, brighter style of sparkling wine, go for a Cremant de Loire or a Cremant de Bordeaux. Those are great options for something a little bit brighter, not quite as, I don't want to say heavy because that sounds bad. I love a Cremant de Bourgogne. It's just a little richer, a little more yellow apple versus the Cremant de Loire, Cremant de Bordeaux is going to be more of this like citrusy flavor coming through. So like I said, when you are shopping for these wines, just look for Cremant de or Cremant du. I give some great options at Total Wine. There's one, Le Vert Cremant de Bourgogne Brut. Brut just means that it has a little bit of sugar in it, but trust me, it is not going to taste sweet. This one is $20 at Total Wine. And then there's a Trenel Cremant de Bourgogne. This one I found on wine.com. This one is $34. Again, these are going to be top-notch sparkling wines that like, if they were a champagne, they'd be $50 plus. But the nice thing is they are Cremant. I've also seen a Cremant de Bourgogne at Trader Joe's. I think it has like a orange label. I'm trying to remember what the like name of it is, but I've seen it at Trader Joe's. That is a great one to purchase as well. And like I said, go check out my holiday wine guide. I will link it in the show notes for you. And I've got 2 other bottles that I recommend. Now, moving on from sparkling wine, let's talk about some white wine to have on the table. I know everybody thinks winter time, we only got to drink reds, but there are some great white wines that are going to go really well with your food. So one of my favorite styles to recommend when we're thinking of something that's food friendly, but we also want it to be a little bit more what do I want to say? Like cozy. We don't want it to be like too bright and acidic, right? Because that makes us think of summer. We want something a little cozier. So what I recommend is a Sauvignon Blanc Semillon blend. Now, those are 2 different grapes. Sauvignon Blanc is a grape and Semillon is a grape. So when I mean a blend, it means it's a wine made from those 2 grapes. This blend was made famous and popular in Bordeaux, France. So it's often called the white Bordeaux blend. So if you've ever seen a Bordeaux Blanc, it is made with these grapes. There are also wines that are made from these 2 grapes and in this style just outside of Bordeaux, France. Sometimes they'll call it a Bordeaux blend style, or they'll just call it a white blend, and you got to kind of find out what those grapes are in there. But I really love this style of wine because it has those fresh and familiar notes from Sauvignon Blanc, which pair really well with a lot of different types of foods. But then it has this richness from Semillon that just goes perfect with cooler, cozy nights. So some bottles that I would recommend here. So like I said, if you see a Bordeaux Blanc, this is a good one to get. There's one called Chateau Guibon Blanc, Guibon, Guibon. I still don't speak French at all, guys. Sorry. I'm really bad at this. But this is a great choice. It is $25 at Total Wine. This is a French Bordeaux style, so kind of more in that traditional route. Another great option, also from Bordeaux, France, is the de Bordeaux Liaison. Sauvignon Blanc, and Semillon. This one as well comes from Bordeaux. It actually comes from the region called Entre-deux-Mers, which is basically this region between the two big red regions, but it's between the rivers that go through Bordeaux. And they make a lot of really great white wine. So this one is about $22. And again, you can find this at Total Wine. Now, if you're looking for something outside of Bordeaux, France, one of my absolute favorite white wines comes from a winery here in Washington called Delisle Cellars. And their white wine, the Chaleur Blanc, is just phenomenal. It's a little more expensive. These run about $42 a bottle, but they are really special, super delicious. Like even people who don't drink white wine, I share this with them and they're like, ooh, that's kind of good. It's just, it's so smooth and just like, it just hits the spot. One other one, you can also find these Sauvignon Blanc Semillon blends from Australia is another cool spot to look up. And so I'm sharing this bottle called Howard Park Mayam, and this is from Australia. You can find it on wine.com for $17. So a really good deal on that one. I've also seen a Bordeaux Blanc again at Trader Joe's. I always want to mention this too, because I know that a lot of folks shop there. If you're like hosting a lot of people and you need to buy more than one bottle of wine, I've had the Bordeaux Blanc at Trader Joe's, also delicious. You would be great grabbing that as well. Beyond Bordeaux Blanc, I also want to give you a couple other recommendations for white wines that you could bring to your holiday party or have on your dinner table for the holidays. So if you want to kind of impress some folks and go a little more traditional, I think a white Burgundy would be amazing for the holidays. These are wines that are made in the Burgundy region of France, so we're going back to Burgundy. We're having a very French Christmas so far, if you can't tell. But this is a wine made with Chardonnay, but don't worry, it's not overly buttery. I think you would impress a lot of people who like didn't realize they would like a Chardonnay. If you want something that's like higher acidity, really bright, go with a Chablis, Chablis. These are wines that are made in the most northern part of Burgundy. They pair super well with seafood, so if you're going that way, but honestly, they also pair really well with rich dishes like ham. What else am I thinking of? Oh, like a cheesy dish, like if you have mac and cheese at your Christmas dinner, that would go really well with this. So Chablis is a good option. Another great spot if you're looking for something that like a little more traditional, but you don't want to spend $50 a bottle, look for a Burgundy labeled Haute Côte de Beaune or Haute Côte de Nuit. And this is kind of a newer region in Burgundy. The best wines are typically made with grapes that are found on the hillsides. But there are also grapes that are on top of these hillsides and on the opposite side. And they are still great grapes. They still make great wines. And so Haute Côte de Beaune comes from the Beaune region in the Côte d'Or, which is like where the most expensive Burgundy wines come from. And Haute Côte de Nuit, Nuit, comes from the Nuit region, which is also in the Côte d'Or. And like I said, these are just like great bottles where you can get them at a little bit of a lower cost, but they come from that really top region. Another great region that is kind of popping up in Burgundy is Côte Chalonnais. Chalonnais is this region in like mid Burgundy to southern Burgundy that is just kind of being discovered right now. So if you walk into your wine shop, ask them about a Côte Chalonnais Burgundy and see what they come up with. Lastly, if you have a bunch of folks who just love trying unique, funky wines, try a Pecorino. I've probably talked about this if you follow me on Instagram. This has been like my wine of the fall, but I also think it's a great winter wine. Pecorino, yes, it's a cheese, but it's also a wine. And it comes from Italy. And it's just this really, it's got that nice bright acidity of Sauvignon Blanc, but similar to our Sauvignon Blanc Semillon blend, it has this richness to it that just like smooths it out. And it's going to make it a perfect food-friendly wine, but also a great wine just to have while you're sipping during the holidays. Okay, let's talk red wines. This podcast is sponsored by VoChill. When you're enjoying a glass of wine, temperature matters. And you don't need to be a wine expert to know this. You know this the minute you realize you forgot to put the bottle of wine in the fridge, and now you're stuck with lukewarm Sauvignon Blanc that is the opposite of refreshing. You know adding ice cubes will just water the wine down, but it seems like it's your only option. Not anymore. I want to introduce you to one of my favorite wine gadgets, VoChill. This gadget is as simple as it is elegant. It will keep wine perfectly chilled in your own wine glass. No more clunky metal or plastic tumblers or ice in your wine. While this gadget is an absolute must during the summer months, I don't enjoy wine without it from June to September. It's also incredibly useful for those days when you're craving a glass of white or rosé, but you don't want to wait for the bottle to chill in the fridge. VoChill offers a stemmed and stemless chiller in multiple colors, so you're bound to find one that's perfect for you. They also make the perfect gift. I should know, I got one for my mom at Christmas a couple years ago, and she loves it. Head to vochill.com, that's VOCHILL.com, to get your perfect wine chiller, and don't forget to use code CORKANDFIZZ for 15% off your order. This podcast is sponsored by the Cork Crew Virtual Wine Club. Interested in trying new wines, but not sure where to start? Or maybe you've been listening to this podcast for a while and you love the idea of tasting wine live with me. If that's you, come join my Cork Crew Virtual Wine Club, and you'll get to sip wine with me twice a month while I help you find new favorite wines. The Cork Crew is not your ordinary wine club. This is a community of people who are passionate about exploring new flavors, learning about different wine styles, and having fun along the way. And the best part about this club, purchasing the wine is completely optional. Plus, all events are recorded, and you have access to the full library of recordings as a Cork Crew member, so you can always catch up if you can't make it live. Oh, and did I mention it's virtual, which means you get to do all of this from the comfort of your sofa in your PJs. No need to worry about driving in crappy traffic, finding a designated driver, or spending an arm and a leg on a taxi. Want to give it a try without the commitment? You're in luck. Right now, I'm offering a free class pass to anybody who wants to try out the Cork Crew Virtual Wine Tasting Club. With this pass, you'll be able to join a Cork Crew event of your choosing. No strings attached. I don't need your credit card. I don't need you to sign up for anything. You'll be my guest. Simply head to corkandfizz.com/free class pass to get your class pass and be one step closer to becoming a member of the best wine tasting club around, the Cork Crew. I can't wait to see you there. Now let's get back to the show. Now, my number one recommendation when it comes to pairing red wine with your dinner over the holidays, we're going to go with a Cabernet Franc. Now, I know a lot of you are like, no, what about like the big, bold Cabernet Sauvignon? That's great if you're into it, but if we're wanting a more food-friendly option, we want a Cabernet Franc. It's got similar flavors, but it's not quite as heavy, and it has higher acidity levels. Acidity is always a good thing when we're trying to pair with food, and it has more of these herbal, earthy notes like green pepper and fresh herbs. And if we think about what we like to, how we season the turkey or the ham over the holidays, is we like to have a lot of herbs and we like to have a lot of veggies and earthiness with it. So this wine is going to work perfectly. And you can find Cabernet Franc all over the world. The nice thing is this is lesser known as well, not as popular as Cabernet Sauvignon. So guess what? It's also cheaper than Cabernet Sauvignon a lot of the times. Now, I always like to give like a good variety. So Cabernet Franc, the most traditional version, is going to come from the Loire Valley in France. And one of my favorite little regions in there is Chinon, Chinon. And this is where you're going to find great value for the wine. Like, it's ridiculous how little you have to pay to get such a high quality wine. In my holiday wine guide, I recommend a Chinon Le Pré Vajor. And this is a $23 bottle of Cabernet Franc from the Loire Valley. You can get it at Total Wine. You can also find Cabernet Franc from New York, believe it or not, in the Finger Lakes. This is a very popular style. One of my favorite producers of this is Ravines, Ravines. They have a great bottle. You can get one for $29 at wine.com, or honestly, you'd probably find that at a lot of local wine shops. Another great place if you're in the US to find Cabernet Franc is Virginia. I have highlighted a few Virginia winemakers, I believe, on this podcast. I sing so many high praises for Virginia Cabernet Franc. It is just like, it tastes like Thanksgiving to me. I know we're past Thanksgiving now when you're listening to this. Well, maybe if you're re-listening to this some other time, this is also a perfect wine for Thanksgiving. but it has these lovely cranberry, earthy, fresh just notes to it. And this fruitiness in Virginia of this Cabernet Franc is just perfect without being overwhelming. If you are looking for one locally and you're not in Virginia, I have found this one Horton Tower series Cabernet Franc at Total Wine. I don't know if it's at every Total Wine, but I have found it here in Washington. Otherwise, next time you have some time, do some online shopping and look at some of the great Virginia wineries. There are some wonderful ones. Go back in the podcast. I know I've interviewed some wonderful Virginia winemakers, and you can find some great ones and kind of stock up so you're ready the next holiday season. And of course, I'm not just going to give you one recommendation for a red wine over the holidays. If you're looking for something that's a little more, not like affordable, but easier to find, something a little more fruit forward, something a little different that folks may have not have tried, look for a Gamay. Gamay is another great one to have over the holidays because, again, it's got this nice acidity to it. It's not super heavy. It's got lots of fruit flavor to it. Everyone just enjoys drinking it. It's very easy to drink. It goes really well with ham, which is my go-to for Christmas dinner, but it also goes well with a lot of different foods. It can work well with red meat too. And so a great place for Gamay is Beaujolais. And you remember we talked about this in a previous episode. Beaujolais is a region just south of Burgundy. They make absolutely phenomenal wines, and it is so affordable. Just go to your local wine shop, go to Total Wine, look for some Beaujolais. It is spelt like Beaujolais. It does not look anything like how it's said. It's said Beaujolais. Beaujolais. And so that would be a great one for the holidays. And again, if we're looking for something a little more unique, you got some wine enthusiasts coming over for dinner and you want to impress them with something unique and different, go for an Etna Rosso. This wine comes from Italy. It comes from the Etna DOC, which is actually situated on the slopes of the Etna volcano on the island of Sicily. It is such a cool wine. Everyone I introduce it to absolutely loves it. I don't know what it is. It's like that perfect blend of fruity and earthy and rich and deep without being overwhelming. It's made with two grapes you've probably never heard of, Nerello Mascalese and Nerello Cappuccio. But it's really good. And you can find it at your local Total Wine, your local wine shop. And so I highly recommend if you want something that's kind of different. And like I said, you got some wine enthusiasts, so you want to kind of impress and be like, oh, I didn't just bring the normal Cabernet Sauvignon that I always bring. I found this cool Etna Rosso. And they'll be like, ooh, tell us about it. And be like, it comes from a volcano. It's just a really, really cool wine. And again, food friendly. So it's going to pair with a lot of things that you are eating for the holidays. Okay, last up, let's talk dessert wine. I know a lot of people turn their noses up at dessert wine, but this is a perfect time to enjoy something good, whether you want to pair it with your Christmas cookies or you just want to have some wine for dessert. I'm going to recommend 3 different styles. So the first one we're going to talk about, I think is going to be the easiest one to find. It's called Tawny Port. So Tawny Port, it's a fortified wine from Portugal, and that means that fermentation is stopped. So that time when they're turning the grape juice and the sugar and the grape juice into alcohol, they stop that process by adding neutral grape spirit. So it keeps the alcohol content high, but it leaves behind some residual sugar in the wine. So it makes this wine really rich, really sweet, but balanced because it has this full body. It's not it's never syrupy sweet. And I always warn people when they're having port is friendly reminder, this has a lot of alcohol. You might not notice it because it tastes so good, but be careful having more than a glass. And this is also one of those that you serve in one of those little tiny glasses because you really only need a couple ounces. But it has those really rich red fruit, dried fig and raisins. And then it has this cinnamon and caramel. I am a sucker for a good tawny port. And again, you're looking for tawny, Tawny port, not ruby. That's going to be more fruit forward and less rich. Still great, just not quite what I'm talking about. You can find a lot of different styles. Now you'll notice that tawny port doesn't have a specific year on it. Sometimes it'll say things like a 10-year-old, a 20-year-old. And what that means is that is the average age of the wine that went into this blend. So tawny ports are usually a blend of multiple different vintages, and that 10-year-old means that it's the average age of the wine that went into the blend. So 10 years is a great one. You can get a great one from Taylor Fladgate, a 10-year-old tawny port for $26 at Total Wine. Now, if you want to like really impress, there's a great bottle of Graham's 20-year-old tawny port. And the older that the tawny port is, less fruit, more of those kind of caramel, cinnamon, more of those aged characteristics are going to come out. It is delicious, but if you like more fruit, go for a younger one. But this Graham's 20-year-old tawny port is a little more expensive. It is $71 at Total Wine. But the nice thing about port, again, you're only drinking small amounts of it at a time, and you can save this. Even if you just put the cork back in it like normal, because it has that higher alcohol content, it'll last at least a month, if not longer. Okay, the two other dessert wines that I'm going to recommend. The first one is called ice wine. It's just like fun and in the holiday spirit. So ice wine is made by actually freezing the grapes. So most of the time it's made where the winemaker will leave the grapes out on the vine. The temperature will drop. The grapes will freeze. All the water in the grapes freezes. And then they press those frozen grapes and they just get the sugary juice out of it. And it leaves behind all of the water content because it's all frozen, right? So it creates this really delectable, sweet, just honestly, like elixir, I feel like is the way to describe an ice wine. I think some of the best that I've had come out of Canada and Germany. Those are going to be like my two top spots for getting ice wine. But I've also had great ones, different spots in Wisconsin. I'm from Wisconsin, which is why I've tried a lot of it there. Also Washington, New York makes some good ice wine. Think of areas where it's actually going to get cold enough that they can make ice wine. The other one I'm going to recommend is Vin Santo. This one's really special. This is from Italy, and it is made with grapes that are dried on straw mats. So you'll notice both the ice wine and the Vin Santo, the idea is get rid of the water content because you just want that like concentrated flavor and juice in the grapes. So you're going to dry the grapes and then you're going to press those, and then they go through a really special aging process. And the crazy thing is Vin Santo smells like it has a lot of alcohol, but does not taste like it, and it doesn't actually have a lot of alcohol. But it's perfect for like dipping biscotti into, and it's like definitely what I feel is like a sophisticated dessert wine if there ever was such a thing. Honestly, all of these are very sophisticated. Like imagine getting like little glasses out just to pour like little bits of dessert wine for everyone at the end of the night. All right, that is my recommendations for your holiday wine. If you want to find all of these written down with specific links, I don't include all of the wines in the holiday wine guide. You're just going to get the first wines that I say. But you can find all of those at corkandfizz.myflowdesk.com/holiday wine guide. Yes, that was a mouthful. I will also put it in the show notes so you can click on it there. But it is a totally free wine guide if you want some help picking out your wines. Of course, also reach out to me on Instagram at Cork and Fizz if you want to hear for recommendations for the ice wine, the Vin Santo, the Etna Rosso. Reach out. I'm always happy to help you out. And if you know a wine lover in your life that would enjoy this podcast, please share it with them. You can find your favorite episode and send it their way, or take a screenshot right now and post it on your social media. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I release new episodes every Wednesday. Now, I have a special treat for you over the holidays. Don't worry, we're not skipping any episodes around here. I know it's Christmas and New Year's, but like, you've got some time to listen to some podcasts. So the next two episodes are going to be my interview with Dale, who is a Portuguese and Mexican wine importer. She is an expert on Mexican wine. It is such a unique area that I have not learned a lot about. And then she also imports a lot of these wines into the US for us to try. It was such a fun interview. You're going to absolutely love it. So make sure you get those downloaded and you're ready for those come the holidays. All right, thanks again for listening. And if you want to learn more about wine, come follow me at Cork and Fizz on Instagram. And if you're interested in exploring new wines, just like the ones I've listed above, and joining an incredible community of wine lovers, be sure to sign up for my virtual tasting club, The Cork Crew. Head to corkandfizz.com/free class pass to come check out a tasting for free. Cheers!